Hi, my name's Starsky and welcome to From the Studio on Clubbing TV. In this episode, we're going to take a look at a great big, juicy desktop unit. It's the Ample from Analogue Solutions. If there's any such thing as a mad inventor in the synth world, it's Tom from Analogue Solutions. Everything he does just seems to be beyond what anyone else is doing. You might have seen the Colossus episode I did a few weeks ago. He's just announced a new big, huge poly synth about a metre tall by a metre wide, which will feature in the show in some time in the future. But in the meantime, he's released this. It's the Ample. It's a big, chunky desktop unit. You can see it here next to the Arturia Keystep 37. A nice big chunky unit. There's loads of room for getting your hands stuck into these knobs, and that's a good job because it's a completely hands-on experience playing this. There's no presets obviously, and interestingly enough, unlike most semi-modular synths that you get these days, when I play something we don't hear anything at all, and that's because it doesn't do anything unless you start patching in with this pin matrix. Unlike a lot of semi-modular synths, or all semi-modular synths that are pre-patched internally, this isn't in any way. It's like a modular from that perspective. So to hear anything, you have to plug or patch the oscillators into the filter. So across the top here, we've got the 3 VCOs, we've got the ring mod, the noise, and a sub for oscillator 3, plus a load of CV inputs. They're the audio ins, they're the CV ins. And then we've got the outputs on the right hand side, and that's the filter cutoff, pitch of the oscillators, and the pulse width of oscillator 1. So let's just try patching something in. So we'll patch VCO 1 into the VCF. So we'll pick up one of these pins and we'll plug that in. And that's a big, fat, juicy analog tone, and that's exactly what Analogue Solutions are all about. Get your big, fat tones and mess around with them. And luckily here, we've got plenty of ways of messing around with them, including this patternator on the right-hand side. And this is their take on an analog sequencer. We've also got this interval generator, and you can see the different knobs lighting up there as we select them. And that sends CVs into the pin matrix down here on this column. So again, you can affect the cutoff, pitch, 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 and pulse width. So if we just have a little play around, really, let's get a pin and let's change the pitch of oscillator 1 with the interval generator. So as a play, obviously a really simple way of showing what that does, but we'll do something a little bit more complex in a minute. But let's just take a look at what we got on the oscillators first. We've got 3 oscillators and they're almost identical. The only difference really is that oscillator 3 can have the MIDI switched in or out, so you can use it like an LFO, and it's also got a sub oscillator on there as well. But to listen to them, we get the pins out, as you might expect, and we get 3 different coloured pins here. We get black, we get blue, and we get red, and they've all got different resistances, which means they send different amounts of signal through. And after playing around for a bit, I found that the red ones work well when sending signals to the VCF. So let's turn that resonance down, turn oscillator 2 up, oscillator 3, nice, that isn't it? Let's add the sub. And of course you can't hear it because I've not patched it in yet. So let's do another red one, bring the sub in. I've said it before, I'll say it again, that sounds great, doesn't it? It's just, as it stands there, a big 3 oscillator monosynth doing its thing. And just sticking with the oscillators for a little bit longer, we do have pulse width modulation, so you can do those nice thick tones if we just listen to oscillator 1. So put it on a pulse and we'll modulate that with oscillator 3 in LFO mode. So we'll switch out the MIDI from that and we'll go VCO1 pulse width and we'll modulate that with oscillator 3. Okay, we've got the ring mod as well, so let's have a listen to that. So this is the ring modulation of oscillator 3 with one of the others. So we'll put the ring mod sound or audio into the filter as well, and then we've got to tell it if it's oscillator 1 or oscillator 2 creating the ring mod tone. So we'll put into the ring mod, we'll put oscillator 2. Let's take oscillator 2 out of the filter as well, so just listen to the ring mod. So many little things in there that you can start playing with. So we've looked at the filter, really been playing with that. Let's take a look then at this patinator, because this is where loads of the action happens. As I said before, the patinator's their take on an analog sequencer. Analog sequencers are just so difficult to use when you're used to standard sequencers because nothing's quantized. So trying to get everything in tune's really quite difficult at times, because you can tune things with the knob. You can tune it with the CV output. That's the level of the CV that's coming out of each of those knobs. You can tune it over here with the oscillator as well. And you can tune it with the interval generator. So as I said at the start, you know, when you're playing with this, the interactions between all the bits of it really what make it into something special, but they do take time to set up. We'll patch sequencer CV1 to the pitch of oscillator 1. It comes into the mod matrix here, so CV1 to oscillator 1 pitch. See what happens. Let's add some delay. This is really quite cool. It's part of the soul of this patinator. We see we've got these 4 beat knobs here, and as we change these, they change different beats. So knob 1 changes these 4, knob 2 changes the next 4, knob 3 changes the next 4, etc. So you can get every combination of knobs playing if we just put it back on. So we're already going places I didn't expect 20 minutes ago. Then if you stick a beat on that, you can get it nicely in time using this thing here called MIDI note 0. And that means when it receives a MIDI note 0, which is MIDI note minus C minus 2, which is the lowest one you can program in a DAW, when it gets a pulse from that, it moves through. So let's just throw a beat on that, see what it sounds like. Throwing a beat into Logic, we're going to progress every time we hit MIDI note 0, 0, and I've put just a string of 16ths in there. Let's split that up then, so I'm not playing exactly every 16th. Let's just chop the MIDI beat up a bit. And that's not playing on every single hit of the MIDI notes, because obviously the beats on this aren't playing every beat. You press this when we're in beat mode. Let's get into beat mode. We'll play on every single beat. You can turn the beats on and off using this button, and it'll only play anything if the LED is lit on that step. So even though it's stepping through a MIDI, it'll only play it if that's nice and lit up. So loads of different feels you can get for stuff instantly. And I know that's not the best tone to be doing that on. As I say, it takes a while to get things all set up, but hopefully the little demos I've played in the middle of this have showed you what it can do. So what are my final thoughts? Well, it's definitely not going to be an impulse purchase. It's around $2,000, £2,000, thereabouts, but it is a really nice synth. If you think about what you're getting here, you're getting a 3-oscillator monosynth with loads of extra bits on it. If you bought a 3-oscillator monosynth from Moog, for example, you'd be looking at a mini Moog worth maybe $3,500, $4,000, something like that. Yeah, you don't get the keyboard with this, but you get loads of other bits and bobs as well. But it's the sound it makes and the way it works, the way everything interacts with each other, feels almost alive. It's an amazing synth. And if you're used to playing soft synths, I think you find this really weird, to be honest. Weird in a good way, in that you don't just plug something in and it only affects itself. It affects lots of other things as well, which means you sit there and you tweak for hours, playing and playing until you get something quite fabulous out of it. It takes longer to do it, but I think the results speak for themselves. Well, I hope you enjoyed that, and if you did, don't forget you can catch it whenever you like on our Clubbing TV official YouTube channel on the From the Studio playlist. And if you've got any questions, drop them in the comments and I'll see what I can do to answer them. And if you are interested in this, do take a look at my Starsky Car YouTube channel as well, where I've got a full run through and a lot more little demos. So I'll see you in the next episode of From the Studio.